Hey, welcome back. We're here with another edition of the G.A.C. North Coaches Preview, and we are with Coach Allen from St. Charles West. Excited to hear what you got coming back. Last year, good year, 7-3 in the conference. A lot of people coming back. Exciting group.
Yeah,
I'm pumped for you.
I think we got some guys coming back, but I feel like this year, more than the past probably 3 or 4 years, it's a little unknown. I know we've got some of our main contributors coming back, but we lost some pretty big contributors last year with Carson Quinn and Noah Gramling and Nate Cease. Those three in particular were guys that were like 2 or 3 year starters for us. And
yeah, those are tough to. Those 2 or 3 year starters. They know the expectations. They know the program. They're just extra coaches.
Yes, I mean, absolutely.
Those are hard to replace. But on the bright side, you got some guys coming back that also have been out there a couple years. So
yeah, I mean, starting off with Gehring,
that's not a tough, like a bad spot to start with. I mean, I've seen him play a couple times. I've been impressed both times. I mean, he's got a ton of tools and he can play. So
yeah, he's going to be our mainstay. I mean, he's our number one pitcher. He'll be our number one hitter. Should be one of our better fielders. He struggled a little bit last year with the fielding aspect, but we ask him to do a lot. And the thing about it is, with a kid like him, he wants to do a lot. He wants to be that guy. And to be honest, I want him to be one of those guys that not just the G.A.C. North is talking about, but the whole G.A.C., the whole Class 4, if we're in Class 4, and the state should be talking about him.
Well, everyone knows about him. I've been on the south side for a while, and his name is well known, and he has earned definitely the respect of a lot of people. So, I mean, he's 2-time All-State.
He's a 3-time All-Stater.
Didn't mean to slight you a little bit.
Yeah, he was first-team All-Stater as a freshman, and then the past 2 years he was second-team All-State.
Yeah, so that's defensively. Where's he primarily? I know he's on the mound a lot, which makes it tough moving him around, trying to protect his arm. But ideally, where would he be?
Ideally, like in a perfect situation, he would be like a third base type, because I think that's where he'll project in college and beyond. But for us, he'll more than likely pitch and be at short, and protecting his arm, because he's going to be a kid that's going to go deep into games and everything else. We have tossed around maybe throwing him on the second day of conference so that he's able to play short and kind of go from there.
Makes sense. I mean, I've seen over the years, sometimes you get that two-way player. Hal North did it last year with one of their best pitcher. They would throw in the second game because he was playing the outfield. So, I mean, every team has to approach it differently, but you got to have your best out there. And if he's your best shortstop, it's tough to take your best shortstop, because you don't just lose him for one game, then you lose him for 2.
Right.
So, and that's obviously with two-way players trying to negotiate, that's a challenge sometimes, but when they're that talented, you can live with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, being in our class and our size of school, that's what we've had to navigate through for, I've been there, a head coach now for 7 years, I think. It's all, it seems like a blur, but
it goes fast.
Oh, it does. It really does. So I've been used to having guys, some high-level guys, to where we had to kind of manage their arms and stuff like that. And he's no different. And he has no problem saying, hey, if my arm hurts, coach, either DH me, and I'll put him at first if need be, and stuff. So it's just good that he has the trust in us to let us coach and do what we need to do for the best of the team. But he also knows when to speak up.
He's a competitor. He wants to be on the field, but at the same time, he's got a future, and he's got a bright future.
Yes, he does.
So looking forward to seeing where he goes. So start on the infield. I mean, if he's at short and obviously pitch, but when he's on the mound, who else do you see that could be out there at short when he's pitching?
And that's the mystery. Right now, I would probably, and we had Brady Kilker. He talked about possibly playing short. He's a kid who's got a great glove. And he's a bigger kid, but I'll give him credit. He has transformed his body. He's more athletic, because he really wants to play college ball, and I think he's the type of kid that, if he given the opportunity, he's going to make the best out of it playing college. But he's an option that we've talked about, playing short. There's a couple other guys that could potentially play it, but like right now, if we had to play today, I think he would be the kid that
Yeah.
we would put at short.
And it's always tough. I mean, it's the middle winter.
Yeah.
So you're going based on what you saw, and there's so many jumps that happen from sophomore to junior. Just physically, they jump. Some kids get in the weight room and they change.
Yes.
So anyone out there, just know this is just based on what
Yeah,
things change.
Things
Like, this is
things could change in a drop of a hat.
Yeah.
There's a couple kids that were just POs for us last year that can mess around and be a middle infielder type.
Yeah.
There could have kids that transfer in. You never know.
No.
And
it happens. But as of right now, so I just throw out there. Anytime that people watch, they're like, "Well, he said he's starting." I'm like, "He didn't." No, that's not. These are options. We're just talking about what's available and what can be there. So if you don't. Anyway, so Kilker, as far as like second base, do you have a returner or is that another open one?
Well, our returning second baseman was Andrew Vocal, but he'll move to the outfield because he's a natural outfielder. And when we talk about the outfielders, I'll talk more about him in our outfield. Like right now, like I said, if it's doing today, Adam Kalk has a potential to be one of our middle infielders. He was one of our PO guys, and he pitched very well for us. But he's been itching about getting a time to hit, and everything else. I mean, he just sent me a text the other day. He was like, "Hey, coach, look, my 92 velo off the tee and everything else." I took notice. I haven't sent a text back because I just want you to sweat a little bit. But he could be an option. We've got Lucas Stahlschmidt. He was another PO guy. I know he works very hard. He's another option that can play the middle infield. So those two guys will probably, amongst others, and there might be younger guys that will pop their head up to give him a push. I know Caden Eilerts, he was one of our JV guys. I know he had a great year for JV. He might be another guy that could give a push to play one of those infield spots.
It's nice when those POs are sending you hitting metrics.
Gotta love it.
It never ends.
No.
It never. I had Adam Shipley on a show not too long ago, and I was like, when did you actually embrace being a PO? Because Adam in middle school, I mean, he was one of the better hitters in the area, and then high school he hit a little bit for us, but his future is on the mound. But they hold on to that. Brett Schneider last year, before tryouts, was talking about my exit velo was 98. I'm like, that's great. And BP, that'll work. But some things never change. POs, any school, all the time. I can still hit.
Yeah,
so I hope he can, though. Hey, good luck, man.
I want him to hit. I love being proved wrong. And out of my years, there was a kid, Noah Gramling, last 2 years ago when he was a sophomore. I had him penciled down as a PO, and I mean he's about as skinny as this pole right here, And every time in the cage, you just hit, and we were looking for someone to take an outfield spot. And finally, I was like, you know what? Let's give him a shot. And he never looked back once he got his shot. So it can happen. It can happen.
Typically throughout the year, I know every coach I've been around, you're trying to give kids opportunities because you're trying to find the best fit. And as the season goes on, you're trying to figure out what works best. So when you hit postseason, you got the best team on the field. So I can't remember a year that the starting lineup on day one was the same halfway through or at the end. So, and that's the fun part about coaching. Because there's some kids you look at and go, I don't know if he can do that. And then they prove you wrong. You're like, I saw it the whole time. I saw it. I saw it in you. Yeah. I believed in you. You just didn't believe in yourself.
Exactly. So. I mean, it's like putting a puzzle together, and you just got to find the right pieces. And you're exactly right. When that first lineup you put out there, I'll go back because I keep all my score sheets. I bet you're right that I don't have the same lineup.
There's so many variables. I mean, injuries and just someone looks great in tryouts, but then in games it just doesn't work. It's the fun part.
Yes, it is one of those fun parts, and it's crazy when you get to see kids that are just light it up in the BP or throw some great bullpen sessions, and then when the lights turn on, they're not able to perform, or vice versa. Where they're not throwing a good round of bullpen, or their BP round is subpar, and then they go out there and they start raking. So it's just the fun part of coaching.
You see a lot of swings like, man, that doesn't work. It's a cage, nothing works, and then in a game all of a sudden it's barrel. And you're like, well, I can't take you out. So you're gonna get your chances, but when you do, take advantage of them.
That's the name of the game.
So we got short. We got a little bit on second. Third base?
Third base, once again, if BG is
At
not
short.
as short, Kilker or Anton Disselhorst
Mm-hmm.
will be at third. Probably be one of those guys at third. And there's an outside chance of a Nick Bueller, and that he's our starting catcher. But he's versatile, and depending on our needs and depending on some younger guys maybe stepping
Yeah.
up, he might be one of those guys that could potentially play third or that shortstop position. We're looking for big things out of Anson. He's a junior. I know when he was on JV last year, he was upset because he's just a competitor and he wants to be one of those guys and everything else. And I think knowing his family, especially his brother, because his brother was a starting first baseman for us for his junior and senior year. I know that he'll be a type of kid that will show, and I think once he gets an opportunity, you might see some really good things out of him.
Those are the fun ones. They
Yes.
want it bad, and they put the work in, and they show up, and all of a sudden they go off, and you're like, good
Yeah.
for you. I
Yeah.
mean, you want it for all the kids. But so you mentioned catcher, and I know you got the returner, but you also have some younger potential guys that, depending on how things play out. So,
Right.
what's catcher look like for you?
Well, we got our returner Nick Bueller, and he was an outstanding catcher for us. He really worked hard behind the plate, saved a lot of runs with blocking and everything else. I know that we probably caught him a little too much, and I know he kind of wore, which in turn probably it suffered with his arm strength and it suffered at the plate, and being a catcher, that's a mental grind. And then you
Yes.
got to go and you mentally grinding in the sense of catching the ball and making sure you're doing everything right and positioning everybody and then going up there to hit. I mean, being a young sophomore doing that,
Tough.
that's a tough place. But I'm expecting big things out of him. But then we got some younger guys. They're going to be chomping at the bit to get out there. We've got Gage Rigo. He's a sophomore. He works hard. One of the hardest workers that I've seen. I mean, he'll give you everything you got. He takes things a little seriously, like too much, but that's just him. And he just wants to do the right thing. So he'll be in the mix potentially. And we got Ty Duquette. I think he plays out of the Rawlings organization, and he's got a great upside. He's a physical specimen. I mean, him and Gage both work very hard in the weight room.
It's huge.
And they're going to be guys that they're going to push Nick, and Nick's the returning starter, and they know that he's a starter, but they are coming and acting like, hey, there's a position to be won, and I'm going to go try to take that. But knowing Nick, I mean, they're going to have to really impress to jump him.
Well, you get a year of experience managing the pitchers, understanding what the coach wants. I mean, it's tough to kind of dethrone them, but you get kids that want to work, especially you said Bueller is versatile. Hey, you're going to put out the best guys that can produce runs. And again, those puzzle pieces, however they fit, they fit. But I'm always a big fan. If you can put the ball in play and hit, we'll find a spot for you somewhere.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot of spots. There's 3 in the outfield that sometimes you can move people out to. So I think you're talking about with Calk, he goes to the outfield. He was at second. Who was at second base that you said?
Vocal.
Sorry. All the names are on together in my head.
I get
Getting there. So he was at second, and
Yes.
he'll be in the outfield this year.
Yes. The outfield will probably be one of the strongest positions that I know since I've been coaching. It'll be the strongest position that I've coached. And I know this might be going on a limb, and I'm just talking defensively, but it'll probably be one of the better outfields, not just in the G.A.C., but probably in the state. And that's just on the defensive purpose because we've got 3 guys that are going to play out there that can cover a whole lot of ground. And the way I would look at it today, you would have probably Vocal in left field, and he's a natural center fielder. He's like an all-world soccer player.
Athlete.
Yeah, he's an athlete. His dad likes to make jokes about him going to play golf and whatever.
Yeah.
it doesn't fly with me. But he'll probably play left. We got Matt Box. He's a 3-year starter center field, and he does a great job at center field. Covers tremendous ground. He'll be center, and Brody Anderson, and Brody Anderson is going to be one of those guys that he's going to make a mark. And he hasn't had a true opportunity. But I think this year he's going to make a true name for himself, and he'll be in right field.
Well, that's you get some pitching, you get a good defensive outfield, you get good defense. It makes the game so much easier.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the catcher is essential. Mm-hmm. Without a catcher, it's tough to win. You can't hold runners, you can't call it's just rough. But then you move out middle infield and then the outfield. Outfielders get overlooked sometimes, but man. Yeah. You get a good outfield, it makes life so much easier.
Oh, my. I mean,
every fly ball is like, no, we got that. We got a guy.
And that's the luxury I think that our pitchers will have, is the fact that those three will be in the outfield. And as long as they communicate, and Box and Vocal know what I'm talking about, as long as they communicate in the outfield, I mean, I feel very comfortable if the ball's in the air. Tell our guys to just come on in because they got it.
That's a nice feeling.
It is.
Every time the ball goes up, you're like, we're good, regardless. Speaking of the pitching, I mean, obviously you got some guys coming back here. What kind of, like Tuesday, Wednesday conference stuff you talked a little bit about, but who's the other guy in that conference mix of competing for that spot?
Well, I think pitching-wise, because we don't lose a lot, but there's some guys that are going to make names for themselves. And Brody Anderson is on top of that list. He's a type of kid. He's a lefty. He throws, I think he's like low to mid 80s. He's a grinder. I mean, he works hard, and he's had opportunities to pitch for us. And his freshman year, he came out and pitched against Russellville. I think they were defending state champs.
Solid.
Oh yeah, and he pitched well against him. The score didn't show it, but he pitched well against him. And then his sophomore year, he goes and we have him pitch against, if I'm not mistaken, Capital City, which is a Class 6 school, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you not like this kid?
I mean, I'm like, you would think. And then Then I also had him pitch against John Burroughs. So
man, poor Brody.
Yeah,
But it shows that you have confidence he can pitch against those guys. Otherwise, you would put him on the mound.
No, exactly, and that's the thing. I mean, he has pitched better than what the score has indicated.
Yeah, numbers. Yeah,
and he's the type of kid that just wants to be great, and he works hard. I know coming into this season, he's going to really push to be in that number 2 guy, and it's once again we have our number 2 in Adam Kalk right there, and whatnot. But I really think he's going to be one of those guys that, when it's all said and done, we're going to be like, okay, this guy's a dude, and I think he's going to be special. I really do.
You're left-handed, throwing low to mid 80s. Mm-hmm. If you're in the zone and have the defense you're talking about, that's a dangerous combination.
It is a dangerous combination. Unfortunately, he can't play outfield when he's pitching. So
someone else is going to have to be out there. But
exactly, and that will be okay, because I mean, I think if he gets that opportunity just to pitch on the regular for us, I think we will see fruits of his labor, and it's going to be great.
Well, and you can hide a kid in right field after he throws. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not that he can't throw 80 pitches, whatever, and go play right field and be like, look, just hit the cut.
Right.
I mean, it's 1 throw a game, 2 throws a game. Just don't cut it loose. Protect your arm. Mm-hmm. You can do that more than you can put some back out at shortstop.
Exactly.
So I can see where you're talking about. Like, it might make sense if he is that guy on Tuesday. He can go play the outfield and still give you options. But
yep.
So, and then you talk about Adam Kalk a little bit. I mean, coming back, he had 6 starts last year with a 4 ERA. That's pretty solid year.
Yeah, and you really dig deep in those numbers. I mean, there was, I think, 2 games. It was just 2 where it got away from it. I think it was the first game we played against Dominic, and St. Dominic just, I mean, it was one of those days that it wasn't his day. And
well,
I think
it's early in the year, and who knows, it could have been cold. It could be like those first games, it's tough, and you don't get enough innings. You have a couple bad ones, all of a sudden the ERA goes up. So the numbers are misleading. But again, if he's back. That gives you 3 pitchers that you have a lot of confidence in.
Right. And like he's the type of kid to where if depending on how it folds, he could be one of those kids to where we use him in a relief role and being able to close out games because he's got a lot of nastiness to his pitches and stuff. So I like him. I think if he's healthy, he'll be in the mix for that number 2. But if not, I feel very comfortable putting him out there in any situation. And then another pitcher that we have that we don't talk about because he's a pitch primary JV is Marcus Lewis. He's tall in stature. He's like 6'3". He's slender. I mean,
Long arm.
yeah, he's long arm. He's probably his velocity's not great, but he's like a pure pitcher. And I would say pure pitching wise, he might be one of the better pure pitchers that we have. He pitched against Elias last year, and we lost, I think, 6-0, 6-1. And for 5 innings, he was battling. And then we called a changeup, and he left it up, and, a guy deposited in left field. But
It happens.
and it does happen, but just the way he grinds and the way he battles and just the way he knows how to pitch, I'm really excited about him. Him and Brody are the 2 guys that will be now new mainstays for varsity that I'm really looking forward to because I think both those kids can give us things that we haven't had. Because normally we have our number 1 and then our number 2, but then it kind of falls off.
The depth, yeah.
Where with our guys, we got our clear number 1 with BG, but then like 2 with Kalk, and then 2A, 2B with Brody, and then you got Marcus right there. I mean, that's a good 4. And that's not even talking about the other guy.
I see Brady Kilker had 4 starts last year. He's 4 ERA. I mean, you haven't even talked about him on the mound, but clearly he threw quite a bit for you last year.
Yeah, and Brady's one of those guys. It doesn't matter what team we face. He will give us a chance to win every single time. He gets mad when I call him a bulldog, but I will call him a bulldog again because when we go and face the teams like we plays Battenville, God, who else did he face? He ran into a lot of tough luck. But he always gave us a chance to win, and I feel very comfortable bringing him in games or starting games if need be, because I know what we're going to get out of him.
Well, in that mentality, you need someone coming in the 6th, 7th inning. You have those pitchers run into pitch counts or whatever's going on early in the season. You need that bulldog mentality come and be like, look, I got it, and having that depth on your pitching staff. It's so important.
Oh, it's
like people want to look at the starters, but to me, it's the guys that close the game in the 6th and 7th. If you have that drop off from your 1 to your 4 or 5, whatever, you end up losing games. You probably deserve to win.
Right.
You just ran out of pitching, which doesn't seem to be an issue for you this year.
Yeah, this year, depth wise, we should be good. Now, like you said, anything can happen, but we should be okay. And I know Lucas Stahlschmidt, he pitched what he got 12 games.
I mean, he pitched in 12 games, so he was out there 12 of your 27 games.
Yeah, and he was more of a change of pace guy. He's not going to kill you with velocity, but he's one of those guys that can pitch. He'll keep the ball low in the zone, and if you bring him in after a guy like BG or you bring him in after a guy like Brody, and then he gets guys off balance, and he did a tremendous job for us, and there wasn't many barrels that were off of Lucas because he knew how to keep the ball low. He knew how to miss barrels, and he just got outs. And he was very, very effective for us.
Those guys coming in on the backside of BG, whoever, that change of pace, we always looked at them at, look, you can get through the lineup one time. And that's a couple innings. That's all you need. And that change of pace and being able to stay down in the zone and throw, again, just pitch. You got to throw 90.
Yeah.
Change speed, keep it low, throw different pitches. So, Stahlschmidt, Anderson, I'm trying to see, you talked about Lewis.
Rigeritz.
I'm going to say, I wasn't even going to give that one a shot, and that's all you.
Yeah, and so Mitchell is a guy that he's going to venture around to be in the PO this year. He's going to be a unique situation because he's a tremendous cross-country runner. And he talked at the beginning of the year that, hey, Coach, I'm not going to come out for baseball because I'm going to do track.
Yeah.
And I get it because he's a great track runner. But I also know what kind of teammate he is because he's probably one of the better teammates that I've ever coached. And I know that he loves baseball, but I also know he likes competing. And he didn't necessarily get the opportunities as the other guys did and stuff. But I'm giving him that opportunity to be in a PO and him being he's going to be a full-time track guy.
Yeah, just work with him.
But he'll be a guy where we'll like, hey, we'll need you this day, and he'll work out with us, do some arm care and everything else. But he's a special kid. And a lot of kids, if they say, hey, I don't want to play baseball, I'm like, okay, well,
Good luck.
Good luck. But he's a type of kid that our program exemplifies. Like he's just a great teammate. He's a kid that just grinds, and I wanted him to give him every opportunity to continue on this journey with playing ball and stuff. And so I think he's going to do that, and I think he's going to embrace that. Hey, I'm just going to be a PO pitcher. If I get to play in the infield, I can, but this is the role I'll play. And I think with him concentrating pitching, I think he can be very effective. And I think he can be one of those guys, if he embraces it and he keeps the ball down and pitches, I think he can be outstanding and really do some things for us.
And those guys, I don't think, and I know what high school kids can't understand big picture. That's why they have coaches. But those type of guys make teams.
Yes.
The great teammate, the encourager, the ones that are doing they're invaluable. I don't think, and that's what I've always said. To me, the bench guys, that bench, their attitude, it kind of sets the ceiling of the team. Because if they're over there complaining, they're not. So to have guys like that are willing to embrace and just be great teammates and great people, great job.
Yes.
Like you need those; they're essential.
Yes.
And you high school guys watching, like, man, I want to start. Well, obviously you want to start. That's why you play. But understand, to coaches, we greatly appreciate your contributions in the dugout, in practice. Like, it's not overlooked. It sometimes doesn't get said enough, probably, or you don't listen when we say, hey, we appreciate you. You're like, well, then start me. Different conversation. So just know it is appreciated. Any other JV pitchers coming up?
There's a potential of my varsity quarterback, Dawson Sigma. He, because I know he pitched very well for the JV level. The one thing that really stuck out with me was he pitched against St. Dominic in a JV game, and he threw a complete game, 78 pitches.
Oh, nice.
To throw 78 pitches in a complete game, that's outstanding. And that shows me two things. One, I mean, he's pitching. He's letting them put the ball in play, and the defense is playing behind you. And knowing him, how he operates in football, I know that he's got to move. And he's the type of guy who probably gets that ball, and he's ready to go.
Yes.
And he kind of sets the pace of how the game's going to be played. And then the infielders are not on their heels. They're on their toes, and they're ready to go. And they play defense behind him. And I think he could be a guy – I'm not going to pencil him as a varsity pitcher or whatever, but I think there'll be tournaments they'll be playing that he'll have an opportunity to show what he can do. And knowing him and knowing how he attacks things, I think he'd be a type of kid that would surprise us and have some quality innings for us. So he's a kid that that caught my eye, that could be a potential guy to help us down the road. And there could be some other pitchers that spring up at some point, but that's the one that kind of stuck out for me.
Well, when you have a kid that competes varsity football, quarterback, leadership, all those intangible parts, and a kid that wants to compete, you can trust that type of kid.
Yes.
And I mean, I happen to know that one, and I would vouch for him. You should trust him.
Yeah. Well, I worked with him all fall with football, and he was able to command a huddle and get the plays going and everything else. So I have no doubt that if he given the opportunity, he's going to give his best effort and more than likely succeed.
Well, and there's so many parts that go into putting a piece of that was a sentence. Putting the puzzle together, and needs is part of it. I mean, in other years, a kid like Sigma probably get more opportunities, but when you have this kind of depth coming back, you never know.
Right.
And you don't know. I mean, how many times you see injuries pop up and you're like, all of a sudden the kid you didn't even have on the radar is now on the field, and you're like, let's see what we got.
Yeah.
It happens. But anyone else? I think we've covered most of your.
Yeah, I didn't want to skip over this kid Devin Wills because he's also one of our returning backup catchers. And but what makes him unique, because you were talking about teammates, he was one of those teammates that was great on the bench, and you know, it's it gets lonely on the bench at times where you're going and you're just catching, bullpens and everything else. But he did that quite a bit. But he's got the talent to be one of those guys to get on the field. But he's also a kid that has expressed possibly wanting to pitch. He's got a decent arm, and that could add to the depth. He's also might be one of those kids that could play one of the infield spots. He's one of those kids. He's kind of like a Rigoritz in the sense of, I want him to be a part of what we're doing. He was a C-team kid. When I first laid eyes on him, it was almost like, I don't think he's going to be a varsity player as a C-team player, because there's not many times, and let's be real, there's not many times where you have a C-team player that's going to make it up to a varsity caliber player.
Yeah.
But he was one of them, and the transformation that he had from his freshman year to now he's a senior. I mean, he's earned a lot of confidence with the coaches on just how hard he worked, and knowing that if he was forced in to play as a catcher or forced in to pitch or whatever, we know that he's going to give his best effort. And so I didn't want to go without mentioning his name, because he's vital to the culture that we have in our program.
Absolutely. And those are the kids that have earned the right to compete. And you root for them. Like, you want to see those kids that were kind of overlooked, underdogs, kind of whatever, stick with it, progress, and then their senior year, he gets an opportunity, see what he can do with it. And I mean, that's great job, Devin.
Yeah.
Stick with it, man. Keep fighting.
Absolutely.
If I need to catch bullpens, I need on the mound, you need me wherever. Those guys they're wonderful to have on the team.
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, to be honest, it's awesome. That's what makes coaching this team and this program so enjoyable, because you've got so many kids like the Devin Wills, like the Mitchell Rigoritz, that are selfless and willing to do whatever it takes for the team to be successful.
You need those. Well, one of those guys, I think Austin Forney, he's over at St. Charles, but he made the team his junior year because he's like, Coach, I just want to be on the team. Like, can I catch bullpens? And he went on, he caught bullpens, and made the team, embraced it, eventually played in college and played. And now he's like, those are the guys sometimes, not to be dumb, I remember those stories more than I remember the kids that it just came easy to.
Yeah.
Like, the kids that came easy to, they started great careers, nothing against that. But the kids that fought and were like, I will embrace being a bullpen coach, or I'll embrace whatever you need. Like, you root for them. And those are kids I've always remembered. Like, so again, it doesn't go overlooked. We appreciate them. Long after those kids are gone, we're like, you remember that kid that fought for it? And so one thing I don't skip over, because I know it's important, it's just not you, but you have a whole coaching staff you depend on.
Yes.
Lower levels all the way through. So who do you, same as last year, any changes with your coaching staff?
We will have we're currently our former C-team coach, he stepped down, having a child. So congrats to him. And he is moved jobs to support his family. But besides that, our staff stays the same. We've got Alex Waite. Who still remains our JV coach. He was a former Zumwalt East baseball player.
I remember that name.
And so he's still on at JV. We've got Adam Ricks. He's one of our volunteer varsity assistants. He's been there for a long time, and he likes to let everybody know that he's a volunteer. He does things for free. So if you want to donate to his cause, feel free. We got Jeremy Middendorf. He's also a varsity assistant, and he's a former player at St. Charles West, just like Adam Ricks. And then Blake Harrell, he's a volunteer assistant. I think he's a firefighter, if I'm not mistaken, in St. Charles County. I could be wrong about that.
He's fighting fire somewhere.
Yeah,
Great job.
He's doing and he's loving it. And so whenever he's available, he comes and helps out. And then we've got a new addition as a volunteer assistant, which I feel like having these volunteer assistants kind of says something about us. Yeah. His name's Danny Cody. He was went to Timberland, graduated 2022. He wasn't a player for him, but he just loves the game, and he really wanted to get into coaching. And so I was like, if you want to get into coaching, if you want to volunteer, you can, kind of get your feet wet, see what it's all about. I personally feel, and I'm sure all the other coaches will say this, that I feel like I got one of the best staffs in the state. So told him, I feel like if you want to learn from the best, why don't you just come and take a look at what we got. And so I love those guys. I can't, we won 3 district championships. We were able to make quarterfinal runs, and that was all because of the camaraderie we had, the staff we had, and just the love for the school and for these players. So it's great. And like I said before, so it says something about St. Charles West. We've got 2 players or 3 that are coaches that were former players. Yeah. They wanted to come back to be a part of what we got going on here.
That culture and pride in your school is such a big part. And that's when you have people come back, obviously it's a huge help. Like there's more eyes, there's more people, different coaches connect with different players, so having different personalities, like it's so important. And for you to have that many people come back and volunteer, you must be pretty likable.
I think so. I mean, there might be a couple players out there that would be like, if Coach Allen asked me to volunteer, tell him to go kick rocks or something.
Well, you ain't gonna get 100% because you gotta make some tough conversations, But it's funny. A couple of the other coaches have always said St. Charles West kids play hard for you.
Yeah,
and I think that's if they don't like the coach, they're not gonna play hard for you. I mean, it only goes so far. So the culture you've created and you're building at West is important and it's special. And congratulations to everything you've done over there. So
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And like I said, we want to continue to build something special, and we just want to make sure we put the best product out there every time.
You guys doing 3 straight district?
We had 3 straight district. The streak ended last year.
Well, you got to start a new one.
Yeah. I tell you, we got a kind of bitter taste in our mouth. I think, to be honest, some of these guys got humbled, and some of these guys kind of got spoiled in the sense of, hey, start off. I won 3 straight districts. I've been a part of it. This is what we do, and there's other teams out there that has a say in that. And I think coming into this year, I think they've kind of got a newfound approach in the sense of, hey, we were the hunted. Now we need to start hunting people. And, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen this year.
Well, you got talent, you got returners, you got depth, you got leaders. You have everything there. So if they get that mindset straight of let's go attack, be a fun team. I mean, the North's going to be interesting. A lot of good teams. So we'll see what happens. But
yeah, the North is it's not the North from probably even 3 years ago. Everybody can play. Everybody can play.
And that's what I think sometimes people are like, oh, the North is smaller. It doesn't matter. There are players on this team that would be starting in the South right now, immediately, legit players. So you guys get a chance this spring, definitely go check out St. Charles West. They'll be competing for a conference championship and hopefully starting a new streak on your district. Love to see you at the Final Four.
God, I would love to be there.
You should. It's fun.
So I hear. I got a couple coaching friends that have talked about how much fun it's been, and I'm very jealous.
I think you're going to get one eventually. So hopefully it's this year. So,
too.
Yeah, well, I'll be out there cheering for you. I'm cheering for everyone at this point. Good job. Anyway, if you like the show, make sure you share it. Grab the link, whatever. Push like. Send it to family, friends, whoever you want. Hit the subscribe button if you really are feeling generous with your button pushing. Just don't hit the down thumb. Apparently that's bad. Don't do that. So anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great day.